Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Paranormal Lens. I'm Jamie Widener. I'll be your host tonight, along with my dear friend Chad Thomas here. Sir, good evening.
Jamie.
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah,
What's
it's
shaking?
Tuesday.
Again. It seems like there's one of these every week. What's up with that?
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, hey,
Let's see.
this is the highlight of my day, so it's all good.
Well, I just got back from a parent booster meeting for the theater club, which I volunteered to be president for next year.
Ooh, all right. Do I have to salute or
No,
anything?
not at all. No,
None of that?
no,
Okay.
no.
All right.
Please don't. So, but
Oh, I'm going to now.
it's an important part. It's again, it's helping to support the kids, and that's what I'm here for at this point.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I totally appreciate that. Way to go. Way to be involved. That's very cool. I am. I've been there and done that for various things through the years too. And the volunteer side of life is the thing that most organizations need, but rarely get.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to get financial donations, physical donations, those kind of things. But the donation of someone's time is really an invaluable resource. So, way to go.
Yep. So,
I'm going to salute you one more time.
And if I drop a bit of activity, I might be dropping out here and there. I'm not sure what's going on with my net, but I will do my best.
Yeah, you went robotic and kind of like.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
So, all right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm going to babble about stuff anyway. So, no one's going to notice you're here. I'm so enthralled with what I have to share tonight. So, the tonight's topic is one that has been fascinating me for years, and it's doppelgangers, which I know you all know because you saw the intro. Let's go to the first slide. So, in preparing for this, I did a lot of research, as we always do before these episodes. And I found out some things I didn't know that surprised me, and I found out some things I did know that reinforced what I thought. So let's just get to it. First of all, Merriam-Webster, the resource for all things and that have a definition, says that a doppelganger is a double or alter ego of yourself. Alternate meanings could be a person with the same name as another, a ghostly counterpart of a living person. That sounds right up our alley, doesn't it? And someone who looks spookily like you, but not a twin. And I love that you use the word spookily. That's not used enough these days. You got to bring it back. So, going back through some time, the Germans are credited mostly with doppelganger because it's a German word. But according to German folklore, all living creatures have a spirit double, who is invisible but identical to the living person. The second selves are perceived as being distinct from ghosts, which of course only appear after death. And sometimes they are described as the spiritual opposite or negative of their human counterparts. German writers coined the word doppelganger from doppel, meaning double, and ganger, meaning goer, or therefore double goer, and to refer to such specters that would be the opposite of the living person. And Chad, this reminds me that we should do an episode on the types of spirits there are and the differences between them.
Okay.
Remember, we did an episode on jinn a long time ago, and there were various levels of jinn and so forth. So, the different kind of jinn than the spirit jinn, which is also a spirit. Okay, I weave that.
Yeah.
Are you confused as I am right now? I just confused myself. It's important to note that to meet one's doppelganger is a sign that one's death is imminent. Keep that in mind. It'll come up again later. And this is where I was surprised. So the odds are out there in the world that you have a doppelganger are of the 7 billion people. That's billion with a B, on Earth. The odds are surprisingly good at 1 in 135.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's somebody out there that looks like you. That poor person.
I'm sorry for that person.
Me too. Mine too. All right, next slide. So, while existing in German folklore for ages and ages, the concept of a doppelganger can be traced back to ancient Egypt, where the ka was one aspect of the soul depicted as a spirit identical to the body. So uh, another element of yourself goes back into the ancient Egyptian times. And the next slide. In some parts of Europe and Africa, changelings were thought to be supernatural children left in place of human infants. So a different way of looking at doppelganger. And if this were true, my question would be, where did the human kids go if they're replaced? It's like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers moment there, which is another great movie about doppelgangers. All right, next slide. In the Norse, Norse, as in Scandinavian, is somewhat less ominous. There's a Vardoger, Vardoger, Vardoger. This is a doppelganger that simply appears in the place before the person it resembles does, leading others to believe that they have already arrived. It's kind of like a spiritual secret service. Come and check out the place maybe, and then you show up. And in English and Irish literature of the 18th and 19th centuries, there are tales of what's called a fetch, F-E-T-C-H, which is an ethereal double whose appearance, like the doppelganger, signaled or signified death was imminent. Next slide. The first known written story using doppelganger is from 1796, when German author Jean Paul wrote the novel Sibenkus, that features a title character named Sibenkus as a protagonist who exchanges identities with his friends and a lookalike person named Liebgarder. Next slide. Here's the wonderful book if you want to go out and find it on Amazon. I did look for it. It does exist. It's still in print. Next slide. Okay. In more modern times, doppelganger largely became synonymous with horror films or horror through literature, as all good things do. So think of Bram Stoker's Dracula or Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, these classic tales. Doppelgangers fit into that kind of model where it's stuff that's been held on for a long time. A prime example of this is the book The Double by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And Chad, I own this book, and I forgot I owned it. I got it somewhere a long time ago, which is here nor there to anything important to say that I've actually read it. But it's a German story, or I'm sorry, a Russian story, and it's very dry. And I remember it now looking at the title, how much I hated to have to read this book. But it is a good story. And it centers around a poor man named Golyakin. And he is driven to madness by poverty, by an unrequited love, as all stories are. They're kind of central themes. He beholds his own wraith, who succeeds in everything he has failed at, and in the end, the doppelganger succeeds in disposing of his original. So poor Golyakin doesn't make it to the end, unfortunately. Next slide. Our dear friend Hans Christian Andersen, who we think of lovely fairy tales and great stories, got in on this as well in the tale called Skygen, Skyggen, aka The Shadow, and that kind of leads where you're going with this, right? In this tale, a man's shadow separates itself from his body. Gradually, the shadow becomes his walking double, demonstrating the exact opposite physical and moral traits. And then eventually the shadow completely replaces the person entirely. So pretty dark. Sounds more like a Grimm's fairy tale than it did something from Hans Christian Andersen, but okay. And then the next slide. Even Edgar Allan Poe got in on it. There's Mr. Anderson's book. Next slide. All right. So Edgar Allan Poe got in on this in the short story called William Wilson, where a doppelganger seems to exist only to ruin the title character's life. The story goes that a boy attending school in England meets another child with the same name and appearance as he. The double is a source of frustration from the start and appears through Wilson's life to thwart his ambitions. The original Wilson's goals are nefarious and motivated by lust, greed, and are disrupted by his moral upright counterpart. It's kind of a refreshing twist, right? Because usually it's the nice guy whose life is ruined by the evil opposite or doppelganger twin. Here, the bad guy gets the evil plans thwarted by the good guy. So, nice change. Next slide. So there's stories of doppelgangers through time, and these are accounts that are noted and documented. So one of them is of Percy Shelley. This is Percy here, who wrote of a double in the book Prometheus Unbound, and later claimed to have seen his own doppelganger before his death in 1822. Now, Percy Shelley may not seem familiar to you. However, his wife, Mary Shelley, might. Speaking back to Frankenstein. So Mary later recalled that Percy shared that he had visions of strangling her and mentioned an episode in which his double approached him. This is a quote. "All this was frightful enough," she said in a letter to her friend Maria Gisborne. And taking it over the next morning, he told me that he had many visions lately. He had seen the figure of himself, which... Uh-oh, we lost Chad. Oh, boy. We're on our own for a minute. He'll come back, I promise. He had seen the figure of himself, which met him as he walked in on the terrace and said to him, "How long do you mean to be content?" So here's an actual episode of the doppelganger approaching, the living counterpart. It's quite interesting. All right, we would go to another slide of a guy named Abraham Lincoln. So we think we know what he looks like, right? If you don't, pull out a $5 bill and you'll find him. Soon after his election in 1860, Abraham Lincoln saw his reflection doubled in the mirror, with one face beside the other with ghostly parlor. He tried to show his wife the apparition, but which appeared 2 more times, but when she was not present. When Mary Todd was at first worried about his behavior, she took the vision as a sign that he would serve 2 terms, which of course he would, but he would die before the end of his second. So kind of a foreshadowing thing. Instead of a positive omen that he would be elected, it was really maybe foreshadowing his death was approaching. There is a time back in the Deep South in 1884. There was a newspaper called the Sunny South, which tells of a county clerk from Cowaba, Alabama, who contracted malaria. One night, shivering and unable to sleep, he saw the shadow of a man enter his room. As the visitor approached his bed, the clerk saw in the dim light that the face looking down on him was his own. When the same incident occurred the next night, the clerk called for 2 friends to corroborate his story. The 2 men, both practical farmers, arrived as soon as they could. The farmers kept watch as their friend tried to sleep, and they were startled late in the night as the figure of the clerk himself stepped into the candlelight. The men approached the double, which retreated into the shadows. They never saw the visitor again, and the clerk succumbed to his sickness soon after that final encounter. So that's kind of creepy. All right, so what should we make of this? There's a lot of things that could be going on here, but one of the things in addressing the prevalence of historical doppelganger accounts, Catherine Crowe writes in The Night Side of Nature or Ghosts and Ghosters, "We might indeed get rid of them by denying them, but the instances are too numerous, and the phenomenon has been too well known in all ages to be set aside so easily." To provide a pragmatic explanation, psychologists have identified neurological conditions like hethoscopy, which is when one hallucinates their own image at a distance. So this is a physical medical condition. This may explain many cases in which the original was the only one to see their double. And sightings by multiple witnesses still lend themselves to supernatural supposition, however. So as soon as we can't explain something, we say, well, it's got to be paranormal, or it's got to be a ghost, or it's got to be something spectral, and not have a rational reasoning for it. Say like a mirror or a window in the distance. So there could be a lot of things that are going on there. As Crowe observes, the doppelganger is often said to appear as one falls asleep or falls ill. This has led to the belief that when our bodies can no longer hold on so tightly, our spirits may be free to wander. So hence the concept that once you see a doppelganger, you're near death. So in 2022, there was research led by Professor Manel Estelar from the Joseph Carreras Leukemia Research Institute that leaned into the work of a Canadian artist named Francois Brunel. And Francois has been taking pictures of, he calls lookalikes, since 1999. And if we had slides here, I would start to show you these because there's quite a few of these that are really, really compelling. But after contacting many of Brunel's subjects, Estelar found that people who were not related but lookalikes share common genotypes and, interestingly, behavioral traits as well. So given that we are all unique individuals, there are still a lot of things that we share in DNA that can make us be similar. And a lot of times we'll have that in the appearance as much as it is in some of the things like right-handedness, left-handedness, certain features like a mole or eye color, things like that, really just can stand out. And there is a lot of that is overly common across many people. Another study used 3 different facial recognition algorithms to score the likeness of 32 lookalike pairs. 16, half of them, were classified as doppelgangers by all 3 algorithms, and 9 were considered ultra lookalikes. So in all, 25 of the 32 were very, very close in appearance that the software couldn't tell them apart from the original person. Combined, the pair shared 19,277 common genetic variations in 3,730 genes, many of which relate to body and facial traits, making their appearances be so similar. Some lifestyle features like smoking, weight, and educational attainment were also associated with their likeness, as it may change their appearance. And while it's a small sample of this number of people, there's a lot going on there that makes these results striking. It's pretty interesting. So it's really interesting to me, how there can be someone who looks like someone else out there in the world. And this is where the fascination comes in. And I actually have had a situation where I was sitting at a bar one night, and I was by myself. I was at the end of a bar, so there was nobody, beyond me. It was kind of like the open space where the bartender and the staff would come back and forth. Next to me was, like a turn, and that was it. And I kept noticing to my left this table of people who kind of kept looking at my direction, my general direction, and they were like laughing and leaning into each other. And I was just like, this is really annoying. Like, what the heck, And I thought, okay, whatever. And I kept looking past me to make sure it wasn't something on the wall or somebody else or a TV or something that was really attracting their attention and their humor. And it went on for a while. And I was like, okay, I'm finally getting annoyed. And eventually one of them strolled over, and they apologized that this was happening because they recognized that I was not happy about it, or very, not upset yet, but frustrated or confused by it. And they told me that I was the spitting image of one of their friends. Like, you could be this dude's twin. And they said they reached out to him. He's nearby. He's on his way. You're going to see when he gets there. And I thought, okay, all right, let's play this along and see what happens. And again, same as I was saying with Chad earlier, I'm really sorry this dude looks like me, because there are a lot better looking people in the world. But eventually the guy arrived, and, okay, sure. Same kind of hairstyle, same general facial features. We both had beards. We were both about 5'9", give or take. We both weighed about the same. So generally we're dudes that look alike. But the idea, that we were twins, just, I couldn't see it. And I wasn't really going to challenge it so much. And I swear there's a picture out there, I should say picture evidence out there somewhere. And on social media, and I scoured looking for it, and it was probably 15 years ago now, so I couldn't find it. It went back too far, but wound up hanging out with I wound up getting absorbed into this group, and the good news at the end of it all is that a bunch of pints were had, and everybody left happy and kind of carrying on about it. But it was a strange experience, thinking, hey, there is somebody who we swear is you out there in the world, and sure enough, there was a dude that kind of, and that's kind of up to the beholder, whether somebody looks like somebody or not. So, hey, Chad, welcome back. Oh, he's gone again. Dang it. So, my conclusion of this, there's a couple of things I want to add. Whether or not whether or not it be an old world folktale or not, there is no denying that there are people all over the world who are not at all related in any way at all, but look very much like someone else. And I would bet that each of us knows someone who once told us that we look just like so-and-so, like my experience was. And whether or not they saw you somewhere, whether you thought you were or not, too. Like, I swear I saw you at the mall, or I saw you at the store, or this, or at the park, or whatever, and you were nowhere near that place that day or that time. It happens. Well, this is cool and it can be fun, especially if it's a celebrity or a famous person or something like that. It's kind of flattering. But what if the person they saw is your actual doppelganger? And what if that person is out there looking for you? That's the scary part for me. And the idea that if when you encounter your true doppelganger, your death is imminent. So I'm wondering, what y'all think of that, considering that we have a 135 chance of having a twin or an equal to us somewhere out there in the world. Hey, Chad.
Hey, welcome Jamie. Back.
So I did the whole episode, I think. There's some pictures I'd like to show. Let's jump ahead a couple slides here. So these are the two guys that did the Dr. Stellar and the photographer. These are those lookalikes images. And, as you can see, a lot of these people look a lot alike. I mean, there's a few things that I could see difference if I really wanted to be, difficult about it and be, kind of like the critical person. But, on a quick glance, I would think these people are related, and there's more. So, and this has been going on since back in 1999. So it's at now almost 25 full years of photographer Bruel taking these images of people that he's come across. And, these people don't really know each other is another thing. And they're willing to sit with him and have these shoots done. I think these two fellas in the far left corner, the two on the right end of that, went a little extreme with the shirts off. They probably did some posing too. But there's a lot of folks here who look a lot alike. And that takes to the point of that 1 in 135. These people were somewhere within a reasonable radius of each other to be able to get to this. So the concept of having a twin is realistic to me. I think it's possible. And these are some of the celebrity ones. And I love this one because this is such a great skit. It was a Tonight Show bit. Will Ferrell's on the left and Chad Lewis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers on the right. They did a drum solo show off. And Will Ferrell really can play the drums. So, of course, he won that night. It's out there somewhere in the world on YouTube if you can find it. It's well worth watching. It's pretty funny. There are a lot of other celebrities that look a lot alike as well. And here we are with Katy Perry and Zooey Deschanel. We have Zach and Dak and Zach, I should say. Even their names are the same. This one got me because the other day, as I'm running through getting ready for this episode, I was drawn back to Star Wars: The Phantom Menace Episode 1. And of course, Natalie Portman is the star of that one, but she has a body double as Queen Amidala, and that body double actually is Keira Knightley, who is here a very striking resemblance to her. And if you go back and look at it, you can't tell sometimes which one's which. That's quite interesting. They even did it in the movie. And of course, some outro slides here to get back up to the end. So Chad, I know you missed all of that, and I'll be happy to go back over a lot of it with you.
Sorry about that. My internet.
And I'm sorry, guys, that I did not keep up with the chat as I was going here. Usually, as we team here, whoever's presenting, the other is monitoring the board, if you will. So let's try to get back in this to catch up on some of this and see what we got. So, Chad, anything that stands out here we should jump into?
Well, Bert couldn't see any comments for a while.
Oh, okay.
So I just have, I don't know. This could be partially a StreamYard problem.
I think so. It sounds like it. But Ronald said, I had someone claim I was at a bar in a city I would not have been in And this was during 1980 and early 1981. And I was in the Navy, 80 to 84. So this happened when they claimed that they saw me at a certain bar. So I totally appreciate that. You were far away, most likely, than where they said you were.
I mean, I remember one time I was out to dinner with my son Ben, and we were sitting there, and there was another waiter who was waiting on us, but we looked over and we saw him, and we're like, "Why is Alex here serving?"
Right.
And Alex has a very distinct look.
Yeah, he definitely does.
And but down to the beard, to the facial features. I mean, once he got close and it was like right there, we could tell it was definitely not him. But it was like, I almost had to call him and be like, "Where are you?" And the same with when I was in Disney World one time. I saw somebody that was the spitting image of another friend, and I like texted him like, "You're not in Disney, are you?" And they're like, "No, I'm at work." So it definitely happens. So
I've done it to a person where I swore I saw someone I knew, and I walked up to him and I kind of tapped him on the shoulder just to, like, hey, and I turned around and it was clearly not them at that close proximity. And I'm like, I am so sorry. You do the back step, give them space, and like, I thought you were somebody else. And usually if you don't get smacked, you get a weird look at least, and they keep moving, or I moved away in this case. But it is weird. I'm just following up on the Bert's not seeing any comments. I really appreciate this from Heather. So is he back yet? Can he hear us? Can he see us? Talk some stuff. And it's one of those things where we know somebody who knows a story about this, and that's why I'm saying earlier, it just kind of all ties to that number 1 in 135. I mean, it's I looked at it and I thought, there's no way. There's 70 billion people on Earth, and that's a round number. Of course, it might be more, might be less, but that's a big number. And to have so many people out there who could look like you, or anybody for that matter, I'm sure there's more than one. That boggles my mind. It just does, and it's quite interesting. Yeah, well, never mind. Bert's back.
Stop talking about him, Jamie.
All right. So I can't really I don't think this is a paranormal or not episode, right?
No.
But what I find really, really interesting is the folk tale side of this. Going back to the German folklore era of the 17, 1800s, like where a lot of stuff comes from. This is like in the era of Krampus, and the Germans are just weird, You keep putting so much stuff forward. But the idea that, when you encounter a doppelganger, your death is imminent, it's like, it's weird, right? Like with a 1 in 135 chance, you're going to see somebody who looks just like you. What's that mean? And people die all the time, and I'm not making light of that at all. It's not my place to say that. But when you have somebody you could run into and who knows, and if they're in proximity, you can run into them on a regular basis. Like this dude that I ran into in a bar, it was in Lancaster City. I mean, it's not like it's that far away. The dude's still around here somewhere. Does that mean my death is imminent if I see him? I'm still here, by the way, 15 years later. So
Well, that's good.
Unless I'm him.
You never know.
You never know. Yeah. This is an interesting comment from Ronald as well. Is there missing time element events? And I have a different term for missing time. So what would you call that, sir? Oh, and Heather. Bert and I were at the Samuel Miller Mansion with you guys before we all became friends. Maybe. I've never been there, Heather, actually. So, see, it was my doppelganger. We were upstairs on different sides of the building. Bert called me, and I walked through a couple of rooms and seen him, but it was not him. He disappeared. I froze. He was in the next room. That was the only time I have ever been afraid to investigate. Not Samuel Miller, but I think you mean the Haldeman Mansion. Okay, that makes sense. We definitely been there together.
Not
Yeah,
me.
not you. No. You're rookie. You missed some fun there. That was a really cool place.
Yeah.
It is a really cool place. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's it's an unexpected sighting in an unexpected place, and that's the kind of this. Yeah, there you go. Yep, Haldeman, of course. That's the thing about it too. Is like it's not like this is a planned thing where you have like a play date with somebody. You know, um, if your doppelganger is really out there and it's truly doing the nefarious things to get rid of you, you're probably gonna be the last to know. It's not going to put any advertisements in the paper or put any billboards up about it. Certainly not going to give you a sign of its intention. So it is truly a dastardly thing. So this is cool. Like, I don't know. I'm going to say something stupid here, I guess, but I think that's a kind of a cool thing. Like somebody would be out there plotting against me. Like it means you have an arch enemy, right? That sounds pretty cool. I don't want that. I walk my dog every night, and mornings, night, whatever. But down at the end of my block, there's a house on the corner that has these 3 little dogs, and they're really cute. They're this big kind of thing, and they just bark their faces off at my dog, and my dog barks her face off at them as well, and it is just loud, extraordinary exchange. But then we walk by any other dogs in the neighborhood and in their yards, and she is totally fine. So I always joke that these are her arch enemies. Like they just it's like there's a great video on YouTube somewhere that shows 2 dogs on each side of a fence barking and barking and barking and just going nuts. And then it's a slider thing, and the guy opens the gate, and they both see each other like, oh, hey, another dog, cool, okay. He closes the gate, and then they bark right again. So the idea of that nemesis, but in a sense of a person, is, I don't know. I don't want an arch enemy, I guess. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
But it would be cool, too. I don't know. All right. Well, what do you think, sir? Where you at with this? From what you heard?
I like it was a very little bit that I heard. I saw the pictures earlier. I tend to agree with you. It's not really a normal paranormal or not paranormal thing. I mean, I've experienced seeing somebody that I thought I knew, and multiple times. So I think there are people out there who look like us. So I think so.
There's a part of this where there's facial recognition software that ran through 32, I believe, people, and 16 of them they considered to be exact equals or exact identical person to the person that the same. And there were 9 more that were considered to be super identical. So even the stuff that we trust, my iPhone has facial recognition. It's on a lot of apps now. If that person who looks just like us finds our phones, they can get into our stuff. It's that close of an appearance for the software to be tricked. And it's using all these different points of your facial structure as your recognizer. Someone else can't just take your phone and put it up in their head.
Right.
So unless you're M and you fall asleep and they're trying to hold it in front of your face so they can get in. That's happened. Tricky.
That does not surprise me.
It sounds just like it is M. But it's one of those things where that's amazing to me that much resemblance exists. That software that's intended to be very unique is tricked.
This one's interesting.
Oh, go ahead. Wow, there it is. It's amazing. This has nothing to do even with. There's no comment here to twins or triplets or any of that kind of concept of direct siblings. These, this is speaking directly to unique individuals who are in no way, shape, or form related, or at least not to their knowledge, related.
Right.
So you could be that the sibling that was given up, but that lost in the Joe Dirt moment where they're left behind at the state park. By the way, have you ever seen Joe Dirt, sir?
A long time ago.
You got homework if you haven't. It's still funny to this day. But but that idea that there is totally somebody you not related or not genetically tied to you that is that much like you. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm babbling, so I'm gonna stop there. Pause it. Anything to add?
I don't think so. I'm sorry. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with my internet.
All right. Well, let's just wrap it up then. We could use an easy night.
Well, I luckily my laptop was close by and my phone has a Wi-Fi hotspot.
Okay.
So that's how.
Okay.
Yep. So.
Okay.
But
Good.
So I was gonna say we've had the upcoming events thing up here for a little bit.
Yep.
March 30th is our next event at Boobies, but it's sold out, Jamie.
It is. It has been all week.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And April 13th, I think there's 4 or 5 tickets left. Last time I saw.
That's getting close. Now the one that's sold out online, you might be able to call the brewery directly, and they might be able to add you. I'm not positive on that. Don't say that I said that. Tell them Jamie told you that.
Chad said.
So yeah, if you want, you can do that. Then we've got. I can't believe that Red Mill is only 3 events away, Jamie.
Yeah,
that's
6 weeks out, right at this point. I mean, the first is really right around the corner. So there are some tickets available there. It is going to sell out before we get to it. I know that. It always does. And with that, if you're interested at all and you're in the South Central PA, Eastern PA, Western Jersey, even if you're in Oklahoma, get a ticket and come on out. It is a crazy cool location, with the history of the mill itself and the town, and the activity. Just the history alone is really well worth it. But the activity that's been presented there through the years and documented is really, really unique. And our findings last year, although I didn't make it, I saw the results. There was a lot of cool stuff that was discovered there. Daryl Marston is going to be there from Ghost Hunters on A&E, and Ron and Lourdes from Staticom are going to be in and do another session there. They'll be there all night. And that's worth the price of a ticket there just to get involved with Staticom and see how that works. It is such a cool and it's groundbreaking. It's cutting edge technology from the field. It's something that someday I hope we all have access to. But for now, at least, it's a little bit of a limited access point. But this is a way to get to it. And I'm intrigued to see what goes on there that night, just with them. And then some other surprises, some fun. We're gonna do some ghost stories around a bonfire. That's never a bad idea, with some marshmallows and s'mores and all that good stuff. And of course, there's food and fun. So
the para chef is usually there.
Our para chef, yep, she should be there as well, and making some delicious stuff. So it is a fun night. So again, if you're anywhere nearby, grab a ticket and come out and join us. And then some normal stuff coming back to the brewery in May and June. We'll have more July events coming up. We have dates through the fall at this point, so we'll get them up as we get closer to them. It's just crowds the space here, so we'll stay about a month and a half or 2 months out. So, but the opportunities all summer long to come out to Boobies Brewery in Mountjoy, PA, and check us out there and investigate with us, and we'll show you how. If you haven't done it, we'll show you how. That's kind of the fun of it. Highly active location, so we hope to see you there. And more stuff coming up with us.
I have the Rockford Plantation up there, but that is not the correct name of it. I was corrected when I reached out to them. I don't have that with me. It's on my computer that I can't get to right now, but I will have that corrected for next week. I was hoping to get somebody from the plantation to join us, but April 2nd coincides with their opening day for the year, so they might be a little bit busy trying to get things up and running and stuff. So they didn't have time to sit down for an interview or anything, but they sent me a really cool book about haunted experiences that the one woman has had.
Nice.
So she sent me that book. I really appreciate that. More information next week.
Okay. Looking forward to this one. It's a cool place. It's a really cool place.
So I'll do a little bit of history and then talk about some of the haunted stuff as usual. The week after that, Jamie will not be with us. Jamie, you realize you're missing our 50th episode.
Oh man.
So, but that's
50th
okay because we got
episode.
Steve Dills coming in.
50th. Hold on. Let me do this. 50th episode. Walt Disney World. Sorry, dude.
But Steve Dills will be joining me that night as a co-host, and he will be bringing on his, I think, lead investigator from the Hanover Tavern. We're talking about the tavern. I have a feeling that Jamie's going to go back and watch that episode so he can learn about the history of the tavern and then hopefully get down there at some point.
I got to get there. I agree.
And
by the way, Steve's way cooler than I am, so it's going to be a great episode.
And then when you come back from Disney, what better thing to dive into other than the Haunted Mansion?
Exactly.
Some of the lores and stories, I'm assuming.
Yes, there's a lot of information available. There's books and there's all kinds of books about it. And you know, it's an iconic thing, but it's got some actual things about it that are kind of supernatural. So, you know, hopefully I'll have some on direct stuff that I can share too, some pictures and video, perhaps.
Are you gonna have evidence? Are you doing an investigation?
I'm gonna try while I'm riding along. I'm gonna have a REM pod in one hand and a recorder in the other, and see what happens.
Well, if you sit in the car with Emmy, they'll help you. Anybody else, you might.
Yeah, look at me like I'm crazy. I know. Or like lean away, like it's gonna contaminate them or something. Yeah, you know, I first went to Disney when I was 5 years old and got to ride this, and I've been enthralled with it ever since. And that was a very long time ago for me. So it is a personal favorite that I'm really excited to be able to talk about. So, and I've read a book or two on it already through the years as well. So,
okay,
more to come.
So, and then
what's this Booby's Brewery place?
Tentatively the 23rd, we're going to talk about Booby's Brewery. We talk about it all the time, but we've never done an episode about it.
I know, right? Like, what the heck?
So we don't have any of the groundwork laid out that we want to. So one way or the other, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We have some ideas that we really want to do, but we'll have to see if that can come to fruition or not.
There might be a surprise or two in that. Absolutely.
But we'll see.
Cool.
But then you and I need to talk about schedule because you're throwing us all out by being away in your week.
I know. I'm sorry.
So
we'll straighten it out.
Yep. So that's all we've got.
We'll be here. Don't worry. We'll be here.
Mm-hmm. Our internet may cut out, but we'll find a way to get back on. So
there's a will, there's a way.
Anything else? I'm trying to use the mouse that's not connected to the computer, Jamie. It's fun.
I'll click the slide. So there's the usual social media stuff to find us. Obviously, you found us on Facebook or YouTube tonight. If you're on YouTube, give us a like, give us a follow, and obviously you get an update on more content as it comes available. We're also on TikTok and Instagram as well. Hopefully we have some more information on some upcoming events and some reveal stuff from those events that we're at. So hopefully there's more stuff coming very soon. So give us a like, give us a follow, and all the above. And we say this all the time, Chad. And I really do mean it. We can't do this. We wouldn't still be doing this for 48 episodes if folks weren't showing up with us to do it with. And we really thank you all. All right, I take back all the crap I said about you. All right, thanks, Bert. I didn't say anything. It is a labor of love for us to be able to do this. It's a privilege to be able to do this every week. There are times when it's a lot, and there are times when we have challenges, and some of the techie stuff. And Chad, you do make this look beautiful all the time, so you're allowed to fade out once in a while. I get it. It is. And thank you, and thank you, Heather, for that. Yes, I am. So with that, we appreciate y'all, and thanks again, and from the bottom of our hearts. Hope to see you next week and the week after and the week after and the week after. It's motivates us to keep going.
Well, one of us won't be here in 2 weeks.
Well, all right, fine. In spirit, pun intended.
So
maybe I don't know. I'm not saying I can't make it in. I just don't think I will.
Right.
9 o'clock's around fireworks time. So
I heard they're canceling fireworks that night, Jamie. You should just stay in the hotel. And you don't think that'll work with the kids?
It's not the kids I'm worried about.
Oh, well.
Thanks, Heather. Love you too. All right. I will let that go. All right, Mr. Thomas, I think that's all we got for tonight.
I think so too.
Right.
I will see you Saturday night because we're going to be doing an investigation together.
That's right. Saturday at the brewery. Bam. It's back
So,
time. You know, if we're doing this, we went from 2 weeks to once a month now, every other week to once a month, and it feels like it's so long in between. In this case, I think it is because there's an odd week in there. But you know, it's then there's only 2 weeks till the next one, and then you know the Red Mill is a month. I mean, it's good to get back on track again and get out and hit the field. You know, because that's really where the fun and the energy is, and we look forward to it. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I do too. So
yeah, so this is all cool and everything, but getting boots on the ground is really what, you know, as paranormal investigators, that's what we do best. So looking forward to seeing everyone out there.
So, all right. Well, on that note, I think we're going to roll the credits and put this one to bed. Thanks for your research. I'll have to go through and read your notes at some point since I missed 3/4 of it. But I will.
Don't worry, I'm old school. I printed them, so I'll just hand them to you next time I see you.
All right.
Night, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.